Hello, and welcome to Green Building Bites, hosted by Green Building Alliance. My name is Peyton Stuart, and I am the Green and Healthy Schools Outreach Coordinator for GBA. In today's Green Building Bite, I'll be talking with Mark Reardon, the Director of Education for Communitopia, a Pittsburgh nonprofit that works to provide climate change education to others in order to develop equitable climate leaders for the future. Mark and I are going to discuss the importance of climate change education, the challenges that come with it, and the strategies that everybody can use in order to improve our world. Let's meet Mark. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Hey, Peyton, it's good to see you. Thanks for the opportunity to meet up today.
Yeah, of course. Happy to talk to you. So before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Communitopia?
Yeah, so, much like Green Building Alliance, Communitopia is really involved in a lot of sustainability. Our focus is really looking at sustainability from a climate change lens. And what we do is we work primarily with school districts throughout Western Pennsylvania. And our goal is to work with districts on really like three different levels, right? We want to work with them on the administrative level, where we can help assist those districts in making, energy improvements and, infrastructure improvements that help to mitigate their carbon footprint. As we know, schools have a huge carbon footprint, and anything that we can do to help schools kind of mitigate that is beneficial on our end. So how do we do that? Well, we don't do the work for them, right? So we take a lot of intrinsically motivated school districts that want to make those improvements, and we connect them with people like Green Building Alliance that really have the expertise to kind of take them to the next level. The other thing that we do at Communitopia is we work with teachers and their professional development. That's something that's very personal to me. That's something that I've undertaken myself to expand. And so we do climate change workshops, from teaching teachers about the science of climate change, which is really an important stuff for teachers to know and be able to have a teachable understanding to be able to take to their students. But we also do solutions-based climate change education. Obviously, climate change education is a difficult subject to approach, and we want to make sure that we can keep this as positive as we can in our approach to making sure that students don't kind of get overwhelmed with climate anxiety, which is a real problem starting to show up more and more. And then, of course, the final area where Communitopia works with schools is to work on that student level, where we actually work directly with students to create positive change. And to give you an idea of what that kind of looks like is, we provide students with the information that they need to kind of self-guide their own learning and creating, projects that may seem small to us on a global scale, but for students could be a really big scale project, such as creating their own garden or creating their own art project that revolves around their feelings towards climate change and the things that they want to see change.
Why do students need to learn about climate change?
Sadly, this is a problem that they're inheriting, right? So Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going to be in the midst of this. Their entire lives are going to be in the midst of climate change, and it's important that they understand the science behind climate change. Equally important is that they understand the solutions behind that change, right? We already know, this is the great thing about climate change, is that we already know the solutions to the problem, and it's unlike any problem that we've ever had before. But we have to act now. And by acting now, we have to prepare students with those 21st century skills that they need to work in the world that they're going to live in. And so learning about climate change needs to be done starting in, it's sad, but starting in kindergarten and working their way through high school. And the way that you can do that is by providing students with, problem-based learning opportunities, where the change that they make is the change that they want to see made. So you present them with a problem, you have them explore the problem, they come up with the solutions, and then as a teacher, it's your job to kind of guide their learning through that process, but allow them to implement those solutions. If you do so, students in kindergarten and first grade see that they're not just part of the problem, they're part of the solution. And in doing so, they start to kind of have this mindset that nothing is outside of their reach, and that if they want to do something about it, it's within their capabilities and their grasp to start doing the changes that are going to be necessary to make those change.
So you say you want to start early, but some kids don't like science classes. Is climate change applicable to other curriculum?
And that's a really good question. And I think that's why I really think that Communitopia's approach towards climate change education's, a little bit different, and sometimes something that's different than what schools really necessarily have historically approached, and that's the solutions-based education idea. So if you take an issue like climate change and you give this to students in a manner in which they're in charge of their own learning, it can cross multiple disciplines, right? From community activism. So students creating a activist approach where they're trying to influence their school board to pass a climate action resolution or something similar. So there's that community service or that activism part that can be there. If you look at science, it certainly connects to science or engineering kind of solutions. Little things make a difference on this planet, and if we can get kids to start realizing that, okay, so you don't have a recycling program at your school, or you don't have a robust recycling program at your school, that if you do some of these engineering ideas and you map out what this could look like, all of a sudden, even at a young age, you realize that your egg carton can be now a paint tray. So you just reused an object that would have ended up in a waste in the waste stream. Older students, when we get into high school, solar is huge now, and students understanding solar, is part of the solution. Have them power something within the classroom by using solar as part of the solution, but then it also transfers over to those 21st century skills that the green economy is coming, right? We know this. The green economy is coming, and students have to be prepared for those green economy jobs that are going to be coming up more and more frequently over the next several decades.
So as we look towards the future, there's a lot of kickback with talking about climate change, especially in our current generations. What types of obstacles have you overcome trying to push out climate change education, and how have you overcome them?
The idea of climate change it isn't something that's brand new, and it's something that's been going on since the 1980s, and it's becoming more and more accepted in this country that climate change is here. If you look at the statistics, Allegheny County alone, 75% of the people or residents in Allegheny County believe that climate change is here. But that number starts to drop off a little bit if you ask those same people, is climate change human caused? And the answer then becomes a little bit less. I believe that the number in Allegheny County is 63% of the people believe that it's human caused. And so all of a sudden, a number that feels pretty good, 75% believing in climate change, turning into 63% believing that it's human caused, starts to add a little layer of concern. And that's where the power of education becomes very, very important. If we work just with students, students, they're on board. They believe in these small changes that they can make to mitigating the effects of climate change. It's the grown-ups that can sometimes be the problem. And so to kind of make a roundabout answer to your question, the obstacle that's probably the hardest for us to overcome is the politics of climate change, right? Because this country, unfortunately, has made climate change a political issue, and with that political issue, if you take that out, it's not nearly as difficult to explain to students. The good news is that there's a push now in this country, and nationwide, a majority of this country believes in climate change. A majority of this country believes that it's human caused. And so hopefully those political skills will start tipping the other direction.
So when you get into a conversation with somebody who is, maybe they believe in climate change, but they don't think it's human caused, what's the most effective strategy to appeal to their side?
Again, I think for me personally, a lot of times this is such a big issue, and there's so many schools that we can do good work in. One of the things that Raina Ripple, our executive director, and I have talked about in detail is, where do we focus our attention? And one of the things that we'll do is we'll often test the waters, and we'll check with school board members if the work of Communitopia is something that they would like to see in their district. And we've received angry pushback at times that this climate change agenda is something that we don't want to get involved in, or it's an aggressive pushback towards us. And my feeling towards that is to okay, so this is a district that's just not ready for us. There's districts all over the place that are ready for us. There's teachers that are all over the place that want to know how to implement climate change education into their classroom. So to answer your question, we don't want to really waste our time on the climate deniers at this point. We want to focus our efforts on those who are willing to, take what we have to offer and apply it to the situations that they have, because we see that growing trend of more and more people are on board with this. We don't really have to spend all that effort convincing people, because there's plenty of people who are interested in moving forward.
No, Communitopia does fantastic work. And maybe we kind of talked about this next question, but how does Communitopia inspire change?
I would make the argument that we don't inspire change, that change is already being inspired. What we do is we provide the tools to those districts that want that change. We provide the tools to those teachers that want that change, and the students that want that change. So I would never say that Communitopia is the reason why school districts, go green, right? Or make those climate action plans. It's the students that create the work. It's the teachers that create the work. And it's the school district administrators that create that work. They're the inspirers of change. We're there to assist them.
So you kind of lead me right into this next question. What inspires you about the future?
I think that there's a growing push towards climate resiliency, a growing push towards understanding that climate change is here, and the future of climate change is dictated mainly by what we do over the next 20 years. So I walk into a classroom and I see a group of inspired students, and they ask all the right questions. It's my job to kind of take that climate anxiety that they have and change that to climate hope, climate work, climate action. If you just look at it, or your own personal feelings, when you get that feeling of doom or gloom, you just shut down, right? So we have to make this a conversation of hope and a conversation of solutions. And if you can start implementing those things and you actually see the good work that you're capable of doing, it kind of just, builds upon itself, and good work turns into more good work and more good work. And all of a sudden what you see is a whole community doing good work.
I like the idea of the community, right? That's where the name comes from, Communitopia. One of our last questions, so we talked about this as well, but what role can students play in mitigating the effects of climate change?
There's a lot of different steps that students can take. And, the first one is to just keep on learning, right? Never close your mind to what you're learning. I think that that's probably the most important step. And taking the information that and process, getting teachers and school districts to embrace the phrase climate change is really, really important. And once you can embrace that word or that phrase, you're able to take it to your students in a whole different light. And students, again, a majority of people believe in climate change, and a majority of people believe that climate change is human caused. So if we can get that into classrooms, teach the science, understand the science, teach the solutions, understand the solutions, that's how change is going to happen.
So kind of going back into everything we've been talking about, Communitopia does some wonderful things. What upcoming events can people from all different levels, whether they be community members, students, teachers, administrators, what can they look forward to that Communitopia is hosting, bringing to the table in 2023?
One of the things that we're most proud of is a student-led event, right? So again, this isn't Communitopia doing this. This is a student-led event that we're helping students create. But we have a Youth Climate Action Summit that's going to be on April 1st. And it's going to be held at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center. It's going to be open to students from, middle school to high school. Primarily. It's free. It's free to attend. Kids are going to need to register for this, but it's going to be a highlight of students doing their good work, right? And we'll mix in there some resources from an adult standpoint, but really the big focus here is students teaching students and students inspiring students. And that's something that we tried last year at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center as well. It was a huge hit, and this year we're going to blow it up. It's going to get bigger and bigger.
Well, I know I'll be there because I'm really
yeah. And for people who end up seeing this interview and wondering how they can become part of that, visit the Communitopia website. It's communitopiapgh.org.
Yeah, we'll link that as well in the video.
Yeah, and if you have specific questions, yeah, the people can reach out directly to me at mark@communitopia.org.
Awesome. Well, Mark, that's all my questions. Thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Oh, gladly.
I'm excited to see what Communitopia and Green Building Alliance can do together in the future as we move throughout this year. And I'm excited to see everything that the students can do.
And let me tell you, Peyton, we're excited to be, partnering and working with Green Building Alliance. What a wonderful organization that you guys are too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.